Morning, you guys, and this is we're going to address a question that I hear a lot of, right? And it's how do I get rich in trucking as a company driver, as an owner operator. Now, if you have a good financial advisor and you're an owner operator and you're not living in California or New York or Chicago or any of these cities that require you to pay so much damn money to live there, then it's possible. Yeah, it's possible. As a company driver living in your truck, not so much, right? Life in and of itself is expensive today. And I'm going to explain to you why I believe all this in my 6 years of trucking, which isn't a whole lot. I started in 2019, right, as a van driver at night transportation. And then from there, I was there for 4 months. Now, this is how they get you stuck, right? If you do a year, you don't owe anything back for the schooling. If you stay another year, they give you all your money back from schooling, right? So that whole year, you think you're making more than you actually are. You got to remind yourself, hey, they're paying me back, this amount of money. I left within that 4 months and went on a JB Hunt. JB Hunt, it was a little better. I jumped on the El Super account, and that's where I really started learning how to maneuver my truck around, backing into tight spaces, things like that. There was a run I'd go every Monday, come back Tuesday, go out Wednesday, come back Thursday. I'd go up to Las Cruces, New Mexico, or I would go to El Paso, Texas, turn around and come back home. It was, I enjoyed it because I was new in trucking, but do I really like, I-40 and I-10 anymore? Not really, bro. It can be sketchy, especially around Flagstaff. You're going through there in the wintertime. Yeah, it can be pretty sketchy. Nonetheless, I enjoyed it. And I wasn't around long enough to do that during the wintertime. I did runs like that mostly as a flatbed truck driver where I went after JB Hunt. And I was gone, dude. I was gone for 6 months the first time. After training at Melton Truck Lines as a flatbed over the road truck driver, that was, yeah. But back to JB Hunt real quick. We'll come back to Melton and then come back as an LTL union driver, right? But JB Hunt gave me a lot of the skills that I needed. And I took a lot of those skills into Melton Truck Lines. And then Melton Truck Lines, my eyes opened even more. That's my 3rd year of experience, right? Was at Melton Truck Lines. But from what I remember at JB Hunt, from the El Super account to the 99-cent account, I did start to make more and more money. I was bringing home roughly about $1,000 to $1,200. Best I think I brought home was $1,500. And that was because of some signing bonuses that I had, brought some people over who were watching me on YouTube, decided to reach out, ask questions. I've got a bunch of content on JB Hunt. You guys can look that up. Just Mr. by the Mile JB Hunt and any of these other companies that I'm talking to you about right now. But the best experience that I had in trucking was at Melton Truck Lines. As far as not money, but as far as just life experience. I got to see all of the United States. The only state they didn't send me to was Maine, all right? But New York, Florida, Texas, Kansas, Nevada, Oregon, Washington, all over the place, Iowa. I went everywhere. And I liked it a lot. When I first started there, I was gone for what? For training, I was gone like 3 weeks. Saw my family, then I was gone 6 months. 6 months. Then came home for like a couple weeks, and then I was gone for like 2 or 3 months, and then 1 month, every time after that, until I completed my 1 year and then became an LTL union driver, right? So I've seen a lot on in the company sector. So those of you in the owner operator sector, comment below on, can somebody get rich in trucking today? Because I think it's possible if you're not living in California, don't have your DOT number associated with California or any of these other expensive states, right? I think it's possible, but you gotta be smart with your investments, of course, right? Always be putting something away. But like these fuel prices, they're out of control. Like when I'm at the pump as a company driver looking at these prices, thinking about, okay, I try to pretend like it's my business. How much am I going to make for this load? And there's been a couple of owner ops that I've known in the past where and I would ask them, I had their phone numbers. I don't talk to them anymore. They kind of stopped talking to me once, you know, I became an LTL line haul driver, and then, they just didn't want to talk to me anymore, I guess. And I guess it was kind of mutual, you know, but I got the information that I needed, right? And when I would do the math on money that I would make as an owner operator, and then factoring in my fuel, how much these companies were going to be paying me, I was like, dude, this isn't good. This isn't going to work. And one thing I was prepared to do was move out of state. I was going to go to Ohio at first. I changed my mind because things in California, I started seeing like a change. I had a feeling. I believe God told me that we would be okay here. Things were going to change. And they really did. The entire time when I would talk on YouTube about buying a home, people would tell me, you're never going to be able to buy a home in California. Well, I've been here for the last 3 years. You can do the same thing as a company driver. It's going to be tougher now because, right, prices have increased as far as home value is concerned. Is there going to be a huge crash like 2008? I don't think so. This past summer, the gas prices, they didn't rise at all. They went up maybe like, I don't know, 5 cents, dude. And that was it. So, are we heading for an actual crash? I don't think so. I think people are probably going to lose their homes, especially if you don't have, some type of a nest egg. Your state taxes on your state property taxes, right? Those are always going to go up, right? So over time, your mortgage could go from 2,500 a month to 2,552, right? Mine actually dropped, and then it went up like $10. So I'm pretty much in the same spot from the last 3 years. But you know, who's to say that next year I'm not going to pay, you know, 2,700 a month? You never know. Now, with monies I've been able to save over time, especially if you put enough down at the right time, put it again, you could end up paying as low as 1,900 a month, right? But you have to put yourself in that situation, right, where you're able to save a good chunk of money before you buy your house. Now, living in a truck, it can get you enough money to get you into a house. Is it lucrative enough to where you're going to be able to save enough money for retirement? You're going to have to stay committed to living in that truck. And me, that's not something that I want to do, and that's not something that I would recommend anybody to do. I could recommend you to do that for a year, 2 years max, but as something to do for the long run, 25 years, híjole, bro, I would not do that for no 25 years, no 5 years. I don't think so. I liked being over the road. I have some of the best, I've made some of the best memories in my life being an over the road driver and meeting new people, trying all these new foods all over the United States of America was amazing. You know, I loved it. It was, I'd always recommend you to go over the road and find out what that's like for yourself, because you're going to meet a lot of new people. You're going to gain invaluable life experience. It's going to teach you a lot. It really is. And so is being a union driver is going to teach you a lot about how much you were being cheated in the past, right? If you want to get rich in trucking, it's going to be because of investments. You have to be smart about it. But if you have a financial advisor, that's also going to take a large chunk of your money when you win in life through investing. And you also can't predict illness, right? You can't predict, maybe you meet a woman, right? You have a kid, things like this. You're not going to be able to predict it. You could be smart, but when it comes to women, you are there's no telling whether you're going to be able to control that situation as far as children go or not. You're not always in control of that. Now, self-control is a big part of being a truck driver, right? You got to be composed out on the road, not road rage with other drivers that are miserable about their own lives, right? But being smart out here and in control of your emotions, in control of your actions is going to make or break you. And here's the other part too. Some people are forced to be owner ops because of bad decisions they've made as drivers, right? They've accrued too many tickets or something. And reputable companies with the good benefits, the pensions, wouldn't hire them, would never hire them. Or at least it would be a very long time before these companies considered hiring them. So if you're a new driver, be very careful with the moves that you make in that truck. Don't allow a company to tell you what to do. And these are things I used to talk a lot about when I was at JB9. And like I said, some of the best memories I've made were as an over-the-road flatbed truck driver. Sometimes I miss it. Sometimes I miss being out on the road and meeting new people, doing new things, but only if I can bring my family along with me. And that's a crammed ass life. That's crammed up. Oh, that's that's some tight space living. And that's not something I want to subject my kids or my wife to. Being over the road like that is not something that I want to show them. There was a time where I brought my wife with me and we went to Fresno. This was when I was with JB. And we had a good time, but is it something that, that I want to do? No, dude, absolutely not. Every day? No. As an owner operator? No. Show the kids something cool every once in a while? Yeah, maybe so. But at the same time, I'm going to be gone a lot. You're going to be gone a lot. So being gone a lot isn't something, we aren't meant to live in confined spaces, right? We're just not meant for that. And riding a bike, getting around on there was this dude that I met at Melton Truck Lines. He had this, this unicycle, and it was an electric unicycle. He would he would charge it in the truck, and then he would use that to get everywhere, to go to the shower at the truck stops, to enjoy his 34-hour rests wherever he may be taking his rest at. And there's living in your truck, you're going to be able to save some money, but your quality of life is not going to be the same. Here I'm able to move freely wherever I want. I've got something to do. I've got yard work. I got things to keep my mind busy. In a truck, it's harder to keep your mind busy. You can make YouTube content, talk about it. People will watch it and eat it up, but they ain't going to watch you forever. You can't rely on this thing forever. YouTube is just a tool, just like a truck. In another video I had said, your truck should just be your tool, not your place to live in. Something to get you out of a rut, sure. Something to get you to a better position in life, but that's it, nothing more. These guys who stay in the road for years at a time, my hat's off to you. I think that some of you were dealt a shitty hand in life. Others of you genuinely enjoy it. That's real. Some guys enjoy that kind of a life, and I can see its appeal. But I don't know if you can convince me that you can be happy doing that for your entire life, right? Until you retire and all that. And Social Security, most guys over the road are able to buy and pay off a house who don't live in California. That's not my life. I live in California. California is expensive, and I'm not leaving. I'm going to be here as things continue to get better. I think the people here are waking up to the politics around here. So it's not something that this isn't something where I'm ready to just pack up and leave. I'm not going to do that, right? My family's here. My home is here. But hey, if all else fails, I've got a bunch of equity in the house. I can sell my pad, I can take my equity, and I can damn near pay off another house in another cheaper state, if things don't change. But I personally think that they're going to change. People used to complain about the gun laws here. The gun laws have gotten better. People, members of my family, have been able to obtain licenses to carry, right? Concealed carry permits. And that used to be like a no-no here. Like they would always tell you no. It was very difficult to do. And that got easier. And I know that God speaks to me on these things because that was one of the biggest reasons why I was going to leave. But I don't know. I just had a feeling when I would pray about what to do, whether I should stay in California or take my family and go. Something just told me. I just got this feeling when I was praying one day to stay. I started feeling more comfortable about where we were at. And I started really looking around at how happy our family was here, because everything can tumble down around you. Your home, your bank could get emptied out, but you're still with the people that you love. And that's what's most important. Now, if I was absolutely certain I was going to lose everything, no, I would not stay here. But you get what I'm trying to say. But I don't know. I just had this calm all of a sudden about where I was at, right? So I decided to stay. And not long after that, they made the announcement that people were starting to get their concealed carry permits. And I'm like, you know what, dude? I think things are going to start turning around here. I think things are going to start getting better. I think people are going to start changing the way that they're thinking. We saw that through, this last election with Donald Trump. California was for him, right? We all liked what he had to say. Am I happy with absolutely everything that he's done? We're never gonna 100% agree with everything that people do, but for the most part, like handling immigration and everything, I'm on board with that. I think that it's important to take care of our people. I think it's important to treat people humanely when deporting them. I don't believe in mistreating people just because they're not from where you come from. We're all human beings. And I think it could have been handled a little better. I don't know. What do you guys think? Do you agree with everything that's been going on as far as, the deportations, immigration? I'm with it. And I think that a lot of people got mad because they have people that they love that have been here for years and were told, you have to go now. And that's fault of our government for not staying consistent in enforcing the immigration laws over the past, how long has it been, guys? Over 20 years, right? So our immigrants have gotten used to, not being checked at the border, not being, well, they're checked, but they check for other things, drugs, things like that. But they've gotten used to being able to come and go as they please. And every other country is not like this. And now that we're cracking down, I see a big change, especially for the company truck drivers. And as things free up in the company truck drivers' lanes, things become more constricted for the owner operators. For example, a video I made the other day about here in California, and I know this is going to spread throughout the United States eventually in every state, but lease operatorship, they deem that, it's unfair to the worker. So no more lease operators anymore. There's been a lot of lease operators that I've known that say this is trash. I wish I never got into it. Once I'm out of this contract, I'm gone. It's the lease operators on YouTube that get a bunch of views and make a bunch of extra money. Yeah, they're doing fine, but I guarantee you they're dipping into their YouTube money to throw out that truck, okay? Owner operators that are only pulling, because there are a lot of owner operators out there, especially here in California, that are pulling for only one specific company. They are going to be deemed company drivers unless they go and start pulling for other companies, which is going to free up more work for the company drivers at those companies. So for example, Estes, they use purchase transportation. And I've heard that there's some owner operators that are dedicated just with Estes. Well, Now those owner ops are going to have to pull somewhere else as well, in addition to Estes, and that's that, right? So it's going to free up more work for the Estes employees, even though there's an abundance amount of work over there, because it's Estes, right? It's not a publicly traded company. They pretty much own everything, so they can afford to pay their workers a lot more. But we're not going to get into that today. But those owner ops, because they're gone doing other things at times instead of just dedicated to Estes, it's going to free up more work for them. It's going to free up more work for union employees, right? I think at Cisco and these union UNFI, these union food transportation companies, right? There's some like owner operators, I think, these little box trucks that go around delivering as well, but we have contracts in place against things like that to ensure that our drivers have plenty of work. So as far as getting rich in 2026, those times are gone. They don't want you to get rich. They want us to be company drivers. And but I think is the noose begins to tighten around immigration, there's gonna be like a window where you can make some money. That window's now. You have maybe the next till 2030, right? Not very long. There's gonna be that gap. Become an owner operator. Don't live in California or any of these expensive states if that's what you're gonna do. But I think that's gonna be your window to go in and make some money, get rich, maybe if you're smart. Get yourself into a home, definitely. You'll be able to do that. But have your eyes and your goals set on some sort of a union career. And there's a lot of different career avenues out there that you can take and certifications that you can get, right? Maybe be a heavy equipment operator, right? That's a really good union job. Once you have found, all right, this gap that I have to make this money, all right, starting to wear thin, let me make a move, let me make a jump. You got plenty of money saved up. You go and use that money for your certifications and licenses, get yourself the good job. Hopefully you still have a big enough nest egg that you saved, and get yourself into a home, right? That's going to be getting rich in trucking, right? There's going to be this. How long is it going to be? I don't know, dude. But I think starting 2026 to 2030, that's a gap, right? To not live in an expensive state, number one, and go and be an owner op in as a resident of another state, where you'll be able to make a little more money than the average company driver. Okay. Now, as a union LTL driver, this is honestly the most money that I've ever made. Being I've been able to afford the home that I'm living in for the last 3 years, right? And I'm looking at paying off this home, should everything go right, within the next 10 years. Now that's, 10 to 11, 12 years, okay? And if things go really well, I'll be able to do it faster than that as a company driver. But guys, understand this word rich does not pertain to money or things. This word rich has a couple different meanings to people. The first meaning is you got a lot of money and you don't want for anything really, right? Rich. The other rich is you've got people who love you and you love these people, right? Your wife, your children. And it's genuine. It ain't fake. You're not faking it through life, right? Or trying to make your online persona seem like it's better than it really is. That's one thing I've never done. I've always given you guys an honest look at my life, right? Not at everything. Don't get too personal here on YouTube with you. But as far as the things I believe in that I've communicated on with you guys here, has all been very honest and true. So when it comes to riches, my family is what makes me rich, right? I'm sitting back in a home, a woman who takes care of it, children who enjoy it, That's what I want in life. That's what's important to me. My second YouTube channel, now that I've got more money in my life, more options, Mark Sputnik and I were talking about all this the other day, got me to thinking. That's why I'm making this video. But when I start traveling around, I will be able to accrue so much more life experience. I miss traveling because I've been to Italy, I've been to Japan like 4 or 5 times. I've been to Italy once. I went to Milan, saw the Duomo de Milano's, absolutely beautiful. And I really miss traveling. Went into France and all that, but I really miss it. Like, traveling is not as impossible as a lot of you guys think it is. I'm not assuming that you personally think that it's impossible. I am generally speaking here. I have to say that some people are easily offended. But anyways, you guys, I hope this video in some way helps you out. If you have any questions about any of the things I've been talking about, leave it in the comment sections below. Comment with your experience, whether it's an owner operator, as a company driver. You know, I hear people say that union drivers are lazy. I hear people say that non-union guys are taken advantage of. Which one do you think it is? Because in my experience, both ends of the spectrum, I think that generally everybody can be lazy, and non-union does get taken advantage of, but non-union guys are really good at turning lemons into lemonade, so to speak, right? Especially if you're smart with your investments and you're putting into all the right retirement investment vehicles, you can make out okay. You know, especially if you bought your home, you're able to pay that off by the time you retire and collect your Social Security and enjoy some of what's, you know, there of your Roth IRA or whatever other investment vehicles you got going on. Fantastic, right? Do that. Me, I'm trying to get all my life expenses down, all my expenses in life down, so that I can do whatever it is that I want to do, because that's power. You have a place to live that you've got paid off. That's everything. Now you don't have to worry about a place to live. You freed up the option to open it up to rent to people. Better, we'll see. But that's my prediction. And I think that, you know, our country has a lot of this. We're being faced with a lot of decisions today. We're a very young nation, right? We're teenagers. We're still adolescents in the grand scheme of things as far as global superpower. But I think that the United States of America will stand the test of time, and we will begin to mature as we step into adulthood. And all these things are going to get better. All right. It's just what I believe, the way I've been seeing things, because, you know, freight volumes, like here where I'm at, like, sure, they drop like they always do. But I'll tell you, the past couple of years were far worse than I'm seeing right now. Far worse. You know, fortunately this year, we haven't seen too many layoffs. In fact, I've heard more about non-union guys getting laid off and non-union companies going down than I have about the union sector. Now, Yellow, yeah, okay, Yellow went down. I get it. Yellow was very irresponsible with their money, and this is topic for another totally different video. Those Yellow employees didn't lose their pensions. I made a video about that. And there were Yellow employees, I think, that I've heard of. I know a Yellow employee myself, few of them, where some guys misunderstood how the pension plans worked. So some of them weren't even able to get vested, right? Like, they weren't making any pension contributions here on the West Coast, but out there in the central states, it was like 25 cents an hour or something that they were getting. So those ones were still getting something compounded from 2008 and on, because 2008 is when they stopped pension contributions, right, here on the West Coast, and when they significantly decreased the pension pay in those other states that are not the West Coast. So something for you guys to think about. If you got any more questions, comment section below. I'm going to Russia soon, so stay tuned for that. This is going to be a travel and trucking YouTube channel. My other channel, Mr. About the Continent, you guys go check that out, subscribe to it. These are okay. Comments are all right. I'm actually like surprised at the comment view ratio, you know, because the views, they're not fantastic. The comments are great. So people are excited about that. I know my buddy American Sputnik is throwing me out there. So once I get to Russia, things are really going to blow up, get moving, and going to have more freedom to do things as money increases on, you know, the YouTube side of life, right? I never put YouTube before my life in my career, right? That doesn't come before this. This is my solid foundation. Everything else is a freaking supplement. You know, that's how we all are, right? We have to start with a career, with a job, work our way up. It's just the way it is. Mr. By the Mile, thank you all for being here. And I will see you all on the next one. You all take care. Stay safe. Be good.